Good evening and welcome to another edition of mybenchjeweler.com. I'm Mike, and tonight we're going to be examining and working on a cable clock. I don't believe I've ever done one on video for YouTube, but tonight we're going to do one because there are a lot of people out there who are asking about how to do these. And while they're not any more complicated than a standard little chain wind grandfather clock, there are some tricks to these and some things you need to watch out for. Now, the prior video on this showed the clock dial and the gears behind the clock dial if you have a moon dial. And you have to be very careful because, once again, this is the moon dial gear right here. In fact, let's bring this in a little bit. You can see this. Right here is a gear, which is either friction on your clock movement or it's screwed on with a little set screw. You don't want to try and take this off or move it because it is pre-adjusted to drive the moon dial clock gear. So you want to be a little careful when you put this back in, and I demonstrated that on the first video. So you need to go back and watch the video on the dials for a cable clock before you move on to master the rest of this. So there are some complexities here that I'd like to explain. I showed you 3 pictures when we opened the website up here for YouTube, and it is these cables right here. You'll see that there is a plastic housing right here, and that goes over and holds these cables in position. So if you can get to the front and the back of your clock while it's in the movement, the case, you're better off to just clean it right there in the case and oil it and put it back to normal when you're done, and put your dial back on and set your beat and hang the pendulum, and you're ready to roll. But for some of you, your back of the clock case doesn't open, and it only works on, some of them don't even have side panels, but many of them do. So you can look at the front, take the dial off, and if you have an opening that can come out on the back side of it, all the better for you. That way you can oil both the front and the back. So we're going to start here and kind of explain all of this. Now, you have to clean these, and there are a couple notes here that I want to make clear to all of you. And the number one is that we used to provide what we called escape wheel oil, and that was designed to oil just the escape wheel. The only difference in that oil than the regular clock oil that you buy in the kits is it had an off color to it, a little reddish, kind of a reddish yellow color. And they designed that so that you could see where you were applying it on the teeth of the clock. So it didn't work very well. And we ended up discontinuing it. This is the your pellet fork right here. Oops, let's see if I can get it. Right here is your pellet fork, and just below it are the teeth of the escape wheel, right down here. Okay, now I caught the dickens by a gentleman who was very upset with me because my big old fat fingers were in the way and he couldn't see what I was talking about. Well, I apologize for that, but sometimes it's just hard to hold the camera or mount the camera and make everything so you can see what's going on. So I apologize for that, and I'm trying to remedy the problem with some newer equipment that I ordered. Okay, so anyway, I ordered some new equipment to better hold the camera in position without me having to hold on to it or readjust the tripod every time I turn around. And I think hopefully that will give us a little bit better view with the camera, and keep my fingers out of the way so you can see what's going on and how to do it. I really apologize for the guy, because I think he was quite upset that he couldn't see what I was doing. Like I said, it's really difficult to keep your hands out of the way, but I'm going to do my best. Now, we were talking about escape wheel oil, and we used to supply one. It did not work very well. You really couldn't see the coloration of it. So it was basically the same viscosity, same clock oil, it just was colored. And I couldn't see spending hundreds of dollars to order that in. And it's basically, like I said, there's no difference in the oil itself. So what we're getting at is you just use the same clock oil that you're oiling the pivots with. You use that to oil the escape wheel as well. Now down here, this is the escape wheel. You can always find the escape wheel because there's going to be a pellet fork right here. And that moves back and forth. So you can, let's see if I can, yeah, you can see it move back and forth here. Okay, not working very well here, but let's get this flywheel out of the way. These are tiny little teeth on the escape wheel, and you want to touch right at the very tip of that tooth and put just a tiny bit of oil on that. The idea is not to let it draw down onto the base of the gear, because the more oil that you have on your clock, the more it attracts the dust and the particles in the air. So the less we can put there, the less friction we're going to have, and the less buildup of dirt over the years. You don't want to have to re-clean this clock any more than maybe once every year and a half, 2 years. 3 years is pretty fair timing. So you want to also oil every third tooth. You don't have to count them, but about every third tooth you can move this pellet fork up and back and forth, and it'll advance these teeth, and you can go about one every 3 teeth, and you put a little bit of oil on them and go all the way around it. So once you've done every third tooth or every other tooth, that's plenty of oil on there, and it'll last for several years. So that is one of the changes we've made. Use the same clock oil for the pivots as you do for the escape wheel. You do not need a special clock oil. You can see these cables can be a real problem. That's why I recommend, if you can leave it movement in the clock without having to take it out on cable clocks, you're a lot better off. Problem two is that these cables can unwind on you, and I believe in the first video I demonstrated how you can, there's a little lever on each of these barrels. Again, let's try and go around here. On these barrels there's a lever that lets you pull these cables out. It's a release lever or click spring and a click that allows you to pull these out and reset them. So if you do get all tangled up and it gets overlapped on your plastic shield, you got to get those so that they're not overlapping, because it will stop your clock. It'll run for maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes, and it'll stop, and you'll have to put some pressure, finger pressure on your weights, and not very much. You can break a cable, but that would get it running again, and then hopefully you can get it so that all the cable is down far enough that when you wind it, you're not overlapping these cables. That's the real difficult part of cleaning a cable clock. Otherwise, the oiling of it is all the same as all the rest of them that I've showed you. So we'll kind of go back through that. Second note here. I used to use, and we still do in the field. Now when I mean filled, a customer will call me and ask if we can send somebody out to work on their clock. And I have a couple of clock makers. Al usually goes out and services them. And he uses a tiny bit of that spray on the cleaning swabs in order to clean the pivots. And what we used was CRC contact cleaner. We used it because it evaporated and it didn't leave a residue. And I'll grab a can of that here to show you it. But you don't need to go buy that anymore. You could buy it at any major automotive store. And but it's quite expensive. It's like $10 or $12 a can. And we couldn't get it any cheaper because it's hazardous freight to ship it. So I'm going to explain a couple of those things to you tonight. And if this video gets a little too long, we're going to have to divide it out to a third video. I'm trying to keep this down, but I think this one's going to run a little bit long. So what we're using to clean the pivots with the cotton swabs that I give you in the kits. Let's see if we can get one here. There you go. Now these are the pointed ones. And you'll go through 3 or 4 of these to clean a clock. And you throw them away. And you keep these and all oils and all things out of the reach of children. There are many parts to the clock kits. And a small part a baby could probably swallow, and you would be in trouble with that. So please keep your kits safe and out of the reach of children. I also send you a couple of larger swabs, like this one, and that helps you. These loosen up the dirt and get them cleaned out of the pivots. And once in a while you can soak these with the cleaner and just rub the top of the pivot. And I'll show you these pivots here in just a minute. So these are the two cleaners that I send you. If you over oil it, we have what they call an extractor. Now this was just a fuzzy little cleaner on filament on the top of these, and you can subtract or draw the oil back out of the pivot if you've over oiled it. And that's important because if you put too much oil on the pivots, then it'll capillary attraction. It will move itself out and draw down the outside of these plates, or it will go all the way in and draw out on the gears on the inside of the plate. So it's very critical to take your time and oil these carefully. And you're not going to do this in 10 or 15 minutes. It's a 2-hour proposition. And if, like us, if we tear the clock clear down parts for parts and polish all the pivots, it's a whole day's work. So, food for thought there. Okay, what we're using is mineral spirits. And I like and I prefer the little can. It's about $3.50 or $4, beats 12. And it's called Odorless mineral spirits. And I like the odorless because, you know, if you're sitting on your kitchen table or something, you don't want that smell going all over your house. So you just dip these into the odorless mineral spirits and begin to clean your little pivots and your well sinks on the clock. And it does really, really well. So now, let me get a couple of different things here and I'll be back. Okay, on the 3 previous pictures that you just seen, one of those is CRC electronic cleaner. We use that in the field and it's about $12 a can. Now you pay sales tax. And once again, you do not spray that on the plates. You spray that on to your cleaning swabs and you clean your plates from that. The other two. One of those is a watch cleaning solution, which you saw, and those run about $60 per gallon. And in my tanks, it takes 3 gallons for each stage, and you use one clock cleaning solution and 2 rinse solutions. And the rinse runs about $50 a box. So it's quite expensive to order a case, which is 4 of each. You know, you're looking over $200, and it doesn't go that far. So what we do now is we have several cleaning machines, and we have a old cleaner that we use, and we clean every clock with the older cleaner, and then we rinse that off and then run it in the brand new cleaner. And none of ours are water soluble. Those are all non-water. And I don't like, they make a cleaner that you can mix with water. It doesn't have the cleaning power, and I hate it because it can rust your pivots and your sprockets, especially the steel parts. So I never have used it. I'd rather pay the $60 for a gallon of good cleaner and move on from that. So we use, theoretically, we use 2 cleaners and 2 rinses. And the second rinse is the cleaner, brand new rinse, which we try to keep it so we don't contaminate it. And we use an older cleaner, and then we use a brand new cleaner to do the first clean. And the reason we do that is, again, once that solution is contaminated, you can filter it once and then it's no good. So after about 15 clocks, you just shot $200 worth of cleaner. So you wonder why it costs so much to clean these clocks and do it right. That's part of it. On the back label of those, it gives you the chemical breakdown. And the the major component of that is mineral spirits, odorless mineral spirits. And it gives you the number of it, and you look it up in the poison index, and it tells you exactly what it is and what the compound breakdown is. So, me and my wisdom got to looking at all that, and I said, you know what, I can save my customers an awful lot of money without using the CRC cleaner, and we can go to a odorless mineral spirit cleaner. And you can buy a small can of that from Menards or Home Depot or any of those, Ace Hardware, all of them. It runs about $3.50. And so that will save you quite a lot of money. And it works beautiful. So that's why I dug those out to show you. I recommend, instead of the CRC or any other cleaner, I have used lighter fluid in a pinch. It works pretty good, but it leaves a residue. That's why I don't like to use it. And not only that, it's extremely flammable. So you know, and all these chemicals are kind of dangerous if you let them get too much vapor to you, or you know, you get them. They're a poisonous substance. But so is laundry detergent. So I mean, come on. All right, let's get back to business here. Now, there are 3 main parts to these large grandfather clocks, and actually to the chain-driven 3-gear system too. So the one clear to the right, oh, I got my hand in the way, God forbid. The one clear to the right over here is your chime, and this is your chime lever if you have more than one chime. And by pushing this up and down, there's 3 different positions. There's off, Westminster, and it depends which one's Wittenauer. Depends what you have on yours. So, but that's how you change the chimes, it's by the chime lever right here. Now, this here is a cam. This here is a cam, and over here, underneath here, is another cam right there. So there's 3 cams on the front of this, and there's a snail, which is actually another cam. And this is your rack, What this does, it drops down this little device right here, this little foot drops onto the snail. This drops down unless you have the amount of how many strikes you're going to get per hour on the hour. Let's try that again. Right, this is your rack, and it drops down onto the snail, which is also the cam, and this allows this to climb back up, and that does the numbers on the strike. So every hour you get from 12 noon to 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way around back to 12, and that's how that does that. As this drops down on this snail, and as it drops further and further down on the snail, you get more hour strikes, and that's basically how it counts the hours. So that's something, again, don't try and take this off. It's calibrated and timed out so that it drops exactly the right amount distance on these cams all the way around. If you take this off and put it back on wrong, your hour and your strike's going to be off. So try and leave that alone. The little oilers I give you, you can actually oil right down at the very bottom underneath here, and you can actually get in underneath here. And for some of those that you can't, you can buy an additional bottle and put some oil in that, and you can feed it down this way and hit your center gear, which is right here. And you can oil it from the back side as well if you can't get to the front. These we were having problems with this. We were using a 22 gauge needle, and we had to move to a 23 because it feeds out too much oil. So I don't like these for oiling the whole clock. But if you need to get in on the inside of your clock, these work. These little squirt bottles here are little squeeze bottles. They work really nice for that. We also make a 4-inch tip that goes on those, so you can really get down into a big clock like a clanger or something like that. You can get into that and oil it. And you can also oil these gears here, your main gears. You can oil them right here at the very edge of the sprocket at the inside. See if we can get to that. You can see, there you go. You can see down in there, that's your shaft out here. And you can get right to the middle of that and oil it there too. So you can oil all 3 shafts right there. All right. So now you've had a little education on that. Now this is your strike hammer on the left. Well, it's on the right now because we're looking at it back from the back side. On the left side would be your chime board. And all these cams right here, we have to put a little bit of grease on though, and you do that from right here. You put a little dab of grease right there, all the way down the line. And that kind of grease is this stuff right here. This is called sticky Red Dragon clock grease. It has a twin mixture in it and allows this to be very sticky, and it stays right where you put it. So you can see how that sticks there. See it? That might have, but you can see how that's. You see how the tail on that is? Neat stuff. Along with your kits, we provide a little greaser, and you just come in here and take a little dab. Oops, it's too much. About like that. And you can start oiling or greasing all the cams. All right, on the back side of this, right here, you can see, I'm going to wiggle this around so you can see it. See it moving there? All right. So, there's a star gear in here. You can see the top of that shaft right there. You put a little grease on that. And just a very tiny little dip. What I got on this tip here is about plenty. So that's how you oil the cam there.